Hello. Hi, everyone. We're just going to give it just a minute or two
Shall
for
I keep it
anybody
on?
else.
Okay, should I keep it unmuted?
That'd be great.
Okay, unmuted. I'm unmuted. I'm here. I'll just wait. Of course.
Awesome.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, welcome everyone to our second meet and greet of our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Access Committee team. I'm very excited to have you. Hope some of you had a chance to join us yesterday. If not, we'll be posting that in the next couple of weeks. Our amazing comms team, I think some of them are on the call as well. We'll be sharing the recordings. So please look out for that. And then as well as tomorrow, we'll be having our last meet and greet of our 4 members. In fact, some of them are on here right now. So welcome. As we go ahead, or before we start, my name is Teresa, and my pronouns are she, her, and I am from the MU chapter at University of Washington. We'll also do some more introduction as well. But before we get started, Diane, thank you so much for helping plan this. We're going to bring out you'll see the poll now. If you can select your comfort level with diversity, equity, inclusion, and access knowledge, that'd be great. All right, Diane, can we have the poll answers? Great, so it looks like a lot of us have already some of that knowledge, which is great, and a lot of above average. I dig it. So thank you so much for having that poll, or answering those questions, and go ahead and kick it off to Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Jessica Cunningham. I am one of the DEIA committee co-chairs with Teresa. We wanted to just remind you all of the DEIA updates that have been coming out via email. If you haven't seen those yet, we highly encourage you to look at them and just catch up on what accomplishments that we have made so far in this work. And tonight is going to be more so focused on the committee members that we're featuring this evening, and just really getting to know and hear a little bit more about them and from them specifically. So there's a lot of work we've done thus far that we may touch on, but it's really going to be a little bit more of truly a meet and greet. So like I said, my name's Jessica. I use the pronouns she and her. I was initiated into our Epsilon Tau chapter at Cal State Fullerton University. And a fun fact about me is, if you know the Enneagram, I am an Enneagram 7. So I love adventure. I have a bucket list. I've already gone skydiving and definitely plan to do it again. It was that much fun. So we're going to have the committee members that we're featuring this evening now introduce themselves. So we will start with Kayla, then we'll go over to Pau, and then we'll go to Lindsay. Same questions.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I'm a collegiate. I'm from the Theta Mu chapter at UNC Charlotte, and basically I'm just really happy to just be a part of this committee. I'm sorry, what were the other questions?
Fun fact about you, Kayla.
I love writing poetry. It just helps me figure out what's going on in my head, or just putting words together and stuff like that.
Hi, my name is Pau Burgoa. I go by Pau. My pronouns are they, them. I'm an initiate of the Theta chapter at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. I'm a current alum, and my fun fact is, I have so many fun facts, I guess. So my first day ever working in the film industry, from which I've retired, but back when I used to work there, my first day ever, I did not know who Anthony Hopkins was, and I asked to borrow his fan. And then 2 seconds later, I was told, you know that's Goose, right? And I had never seen Top Gun. So that's my fun fact. First day, I embarrassed myself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Schubert. My pronouns are she and her. I'm an initiate of the Beta Omega chapter at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. And a fun fact, I don't know. I know sign language. Is that a fun fact? So yeah, there you go. Fun fact.
Great, thank you. So thank you all again for joining us. And if you can go ahead and mute yourselves, the way to mute yourself is at the bottom left-hand corner. There's usually a microphone and you can click that and it says mute, or there, if you hover over your picture, there's also a mute option that will also appear. So thank you. But we will at the end. So hopefully you can join us for the whole time. At the end, we'll open it up for questions and answers from our committee members. So we're excited to engage everyone. I'd actually, if you notice, we introduced ourselves along with our pronouns, which is a great way, or at least a start to creating that inclusive experience for people that you meet. It creates some conversation as well. Pronouns are very important. I'd like to ask Pau, you had mentioned that your pronouns are they, them. Can you please tell us what that means and the importance as well?
Sure. So pronouns are a very personal decision, and anyone can have whatever pronouns they feel most comfortable with, and they can diverge from what your gender identity is. I know a lot of cis women lesbians who prefer he, him pronouns, but still identify as women. But for me, what they, them, is like why I'm attracted to those pronouns, why I use them, why they're my personal pronouns, is because I identify as non-binary. What that can mean a lot of different things because gender is a very complex thing. But for me personally, I feel most comfortable with the understanding of myself either being agender, so having no gender on some days, and then other days being more of like a feminine, like a person who likes to express femininely but tends to identify more masculinely. And for me to try to express at those same times, like, I like makeup, I feel really cute right now, but don't think of me as a woman, please don't perceive me that way, is really hard to express in like very succinct ways. So at least by saying like, here are my pronouns, I'm saying that like my perception of myself and what I hope comes off to other people is not within the gender binary.
Thank you. So as you can see, everyone, I mean, we are so proud of this committee because of all the differences that we have and how we're really strong that way. And that just goes to show why it's important to have diversity and inclusion with Alaska. It just makes us stronger. And part of that is DEIA is the access part. And we are fortunate to have Lindsay part of the group. As she mentioned, Lindsay, I'd like for you to talk more about how your background, especially with the deaf and hard of hearing community and being a teacher, how that has inspired you to do this work and be part of the committee.
Thank you. Yes, and apologies to start out. My dog has decided to be extra sassy right now. So if you hear him whining in the background, I'm so sorry. So I am a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing in my professional life. I work with children ages birth to 21 and their families. So primarily the students that I work with are deaf, but I also work with students with a wide range of other disabilities, including vision. My brain just shut down, I'm so sorry. Visual impairments, motor impairments, fine motor, gross motor. So I've done a lot of work in helping make sure that those young people get access to whatever they need as they're going through school. And so it's been a real passion of mine to assist with that in any way that I can. And when the opportunity came up for the DEIA committee, I had put in my application that I would much rather see someone who actually has a disability in this role, but I also know we may not have a lot of those to choose from. So I was happy to assist if I could. So that's what I'm hoping to do with this position is to is to assist making sure that Sigma Kappa becomes much more accessible to anyone with any kind of special need.
And I guess that's a question for all of you. So thank you, Lindsay, for that. So how about you, Kayla? I mean, you are still in school. Thank you so much for joining us. I know with your online learnings, to step away from that, I mean, we really appreciate your time. So thank you. I know that you are studying sociology and criminal justice. Correct me if I'm wrong. So can you tell me or tell us more about that experience and why you chose that, and then also ultimately joining the committee?
Well, I've always wanted to do something that like was social justice, like advocacy in a way. And I felt like criminal justice and sociology could like mix. And I wanted to join this committee because like I wanted to do a positive change, not only in Sigma Kappa, but like in the outside world. So I felt like, I mean, a good place to start is within an organization that I'm a part of. And like, I just love everybody in this organization. So I thought, hey, Sigma Kappa.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, you all. Really good to hear a little bit more about your backgrounds. And Kayla, you kind of mentioned, getting started, right? And as we think about DEIA work, everyone has to start somewhere, and we're all at different levels. So Pau, what would you say, or what advice would you give someone who's just getting started with DEIA work? What's your biggest piece of advice or direction that you might provide to them?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'll try to keep this concise because, I love to ramble. I would say that it can be very overwhelming and very scary to like just kind of unlearn basically everything that you've been taught growing up, because a lot of what DEIA work is kind of saying, okay, those assumptions of what the quote unquote norm was are a very narrow view of what's actually out there and who has certain experiences. And as you start to dig into and unravel a lot of things, especially like the history of this country, it can be very overwhelming and very concerning at times to be like, wow, there's just so many bad things in here. What can I do about that? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And it's really easy to spiral into despair and or feel a sense of defensiveness, especially if you have like a very close, like if, being a citizen of this country or having a certain subculture within this country is something that's very close to your sense of identity. So I think my biggest piece of advice is start slow, know your limits. If you start to feel defensive or overly upset, it's okay to take breaks. It's a lifelong process. So it's okay if you don't learn everything right away that you need to know.
Thank you for that, Pau. Some essential things there to really just take it at a pace that you can go in for the long run, right? It's not a sprint. This is definitely the marathon. So Kayla, same question to you. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out in this journey and, really getting started in DEIA work?
I would find like what like is closest to you. Like me being an African American woman in the United States of America, like I felt like me just amplifying the voices of African Americans like me in this organization as a minority is what like called me to this. So like find what's your passion, like go for it. And also do what Pau said, like take it slow, like go in for it, feel where like you feel like you fit more is what I would say.
Awesome. Makes complete sense. You have a different understanding if you connect to wherever you're going to start. So makes complete sense, Kayla. Lindsay, how about you? What advice would you give to someone really just starting out?
I think just being open when you're asking questions, being open with the answers that you get, even if that does make you feel uncomfortable. Sometimes you're going to get uncomfortable answers, and that's just part of the growing process, and you've got to be ready for that. The other thing that I kind of like and appreciate, and I think has contributed to my quicker understanding, is the sneaky kind of DEIA stuff. So like a really funny TV show that just happens to have a very diverse cast, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's one of my like favorite TV shows. Hilarious, but really wide range of characters. And that's just a sneaky one. Like you're just getting that info as you're watching it. And then eventually you're like, well, yeah, this is all normal. This is just normal. So, you know, if you're trying to start from a very base place, I think some of the sneakier fun things can be an ease in as well.
Yeah, I hear you. It's funny looking back at the shows that I used to watch, and then as my knowledge, as I'm gathering knowledge and learning, I look back at those shows and start asking those questions of things that maybe I didn't see before. Why did I think something was funny before? And then like to all of your points, like, examining those questions and those choices that were made. But going off of like your advice to somebody that's learning, what is a good resource that you usually point people towards, whether it's a YouTube video or a Netflix documentary or a podcast or book? We'll start with you, Kayla. Is there something that you usually tell people to?
I like my favorite book and movie is The Hate U Give, and I just feel like it just expresses how it is to be a minority in America and to not feel as though you're completely seen or heard in a way, and like just like you get your voice and your power through your activism and you're fighting for what you believe in as a person. So like if you're trying to figure out where you should like go, like I feel like The Hate U Give is a great book that can steer you in the right direction.
Lindsay, Pau?
Sure. So Kayla's answer actually made me think of an additional thing. And I don't want to add too many things, but I was gonna say I think my go-to for recommending to people who are like, wanting to learn more and wanting to really dig into these topics is to listen to the NPR podcast Code Switch, because the reporting is great and they usually have a lot of great conversations about topics that don't necessarily have a straightforward answer. And that's, I think, something really important to like keep in mind in a lot of these spaces, is that yes, some things are inherently bigotry and they do have a clear, we should condone these, we should do whatever we can to remove systemic oppression. But then there are some topics where issues affect people differently to different extents based off of a wide range of nuanced experiences. And that's where we can get into really interesting conversations around thought diversity within these communities. And like, that's just a beautiful opportunity to like sit back and really listen to voices of people from those different communities and hear like, there may not necessarily be an easy answer, but there is a path forward if we continue to have good dialogues and we uplift the voices who need the most recognition.
I have a couple too. A book that I really enjoy and that's a nice, easy read is called Out of My Mind. And it's about a girl with cerebral palsy who has a very high IQ and is unable to communicate at the beginning of the book. So that's a really enlightening read on what it's like to be trapped inside your own body with no way to communicate with people. Crypt Camp, another documentary on Netflix that I really appreciate, gives you a very realistic look into how people with a wide range of different abilities like get through their daily lives. And it walks through how this camp in the United States led to basically the founding of the ADA, American with Disabilities Act. So it's a lovely, it's so enjoyable and is so can be so enlightening if you've never been around people with significant physical disabilities. And then the big one that just came out for my deaf ed world is Deaf U on Netflix. So that is just a peek inside Gallaudet University life. Gallaudet is the only deaf university in the world. So the student population there is all deaf or hard of hearing. So really fun little series to binge.
Thank you for sharing those. And thank you, Terry, for updating our chat if you are looking for what those resources are that everyone shared. So my next question is, we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, advocacy, right, in this work. So how can others become more inclusive and advocate for others in whatever capacity that may be, whether that's, in their day-to-day, or if they're really going to move into activism, really just looking for what are ways that they can be more inclusive and advocate for other people. Lindsay, let's start with you on that one.
Can you ask me that one more time? My brain short-circuited again. I don't know what's going on with my brain tonight, you guys, but it's just broken apparently.
Not a problem. So what are some ways that you could recommend, or you can suggest that people can or actions even they can take to advocate for others, or just make a more inclusive space for others?
Gotcha. I think looking at it from the disability aspect, which is where my specialty more comes in, is just being aware of what people bring with them. If you have someone who is in a wheelchair, have you thought about the stairs leading into your house if they're going to come over for dinner? And then ask them, how can you assist with that? Because it could be that they can walk up the 2 stairs. It could be that they're going to need assistance getting up, and then they'll tell you how they would like assistance getting up those stairs. So you asking them, how can I help you, is much better than just waiting for them to tell you what they need. I think asking the question first and being very open about, like, I want to be helpful. How can I help? What do you need? I think that's what's most appreciated by the people that I work with, is when others ask in a straightforward way before something happens. They don't wait until you get to their house and then they can't get in. Something like that. Does that make sense?
Completely. It sounds like, thinking forwardly, and even though it may not apply to you, you're putting someone else's best interest and asking the questions that may assist them.
Yes.
Yeah, love it. Pau and Kayla, anything you all want to add to that question? What can others do to become more inclusive or advocate for others?
So I was starting to think of this from the standpoint of neurodivergent people, especially people with mental illnesses, but I think this can also apply to a lot of other circumstances. But I think it's really important to create like an internal culture and a culture within the people that of communicating boundaries very explicitly, and setting that example of explaining, to whatever extent you're comfortable, like, these are the accommodations I need, these are why I need them, so that you can both show other people, like, I want you to respect my boundaries and I will respect your boundaries in return. You can set boundaries with me, but also, hey, if you need someone to talk to about these things, or if you need someone to help advocate for you, I am a place where I will take your boundaries and your needs into consideration.
And going off of Pau, like actively listening to a person and their perspective, and just letting them know that you're there for them, and like just a comforting, like just being there for them, and just like giving them the space to be who they are and not who society wants them to be, is a great part too of it.
Thank you. Let's see, I'm trying to figure there's so many questions I want to ask. Like sometimes I forget, like, and I just want everybody just continue talking. But so for those of you joining us, the DEIA committee is working alongside with staff as well as with creative teams that have been created for DEIA purposes to help Sigma Kappa grow in those spaces and do better in those spaces. And so every every committee member is a liaison to these creative teams and staff. And so Lindsay, Kayla, and Pau, is there anything that you'd like to share that you may be working on with your creative team right now, or something that you'd like to make impact within those teams? That was a big question. I apologize, but how about you, Pau? Is there something within the creative team that you'd like that you're working on, or is there something that you want to make sure that we do better at?
Sure. So right now, my creative team is mainly trying to, get everything in place, organize what our priorities are that don't necessarily overlap with other creative teams. And I think something that I'm really excited about is just being able to start, working on how do we evaluate like when we're successful with these kinds of programming, not just talking about like, we want people to learn all the terms, but also defining like what our key performance indicators are, and also saying like, how do we evaluate if people are able to apply these terms or apply these concepts in their everyday lives? How do we evaluate when they've really taken something meaningful from this that they find just to be a useful skill? How do we evaluate when these sorts of things really impact not only our chapters, but also the communities that we serve as part of being global citizens?
Thank you. Kayla?
I'm a part of more like me and Terry, we do like make sure like the awareness months and the holidays and stuff with social media have the right language and graphics that are inclusive of all our members, and like recognition, and make sure that like all of that is more to the lines of being, I can't get the words right, but like in those lines. And like, I just want to make sure that like all the members feel as though they're seen in the way of their cultures and awareness on our social media page is what I want to get more out of it.
I'm also in my volunteer role for the sorority. I am a creative content coordinator, so I'm leading a couple of these creative teams. And I think what I'm most excited about is just the fact that we're making a large suite of resources that are geared both for collegians and alumni. We're making sure that we're making both, so that we know we need some workshops that collegians can do during a meeting, but we also know that we need to make some things that are going to be easily accessible for alumni to gain knowledge and insight into this, the whole DEIA umbrella. So I think I'm most excited that we're ensuring that we're making things for both sides.
I love it. Thanks for sharing a little bit more about what you all have been working on. I know that there's some passion behind some of that work, and so it means a lot. So as we think about DEIA work, and we kind of, think about it as this journey, right, that we go on, that we embark on, that everyone's at a different level. We start in different places, we have different revelations, we continue to learn. As you all have started this work or been in this work, what are some big aha moments that you have had yourself, or some key learnings that you have kind of uncovered as you have stepped into the space of doing DEIA work? I'll let whoever kick it off that wants to.
Sure, I'll start. I feel like the biggest aha I've had over the last few years is starting to think about DEIA as not only like a process in allyship, but also like a journey in self-discovery and self-love. For some context about my background, I was raised in a very white community with with a lot of internalized racism. And for living in post 9/11 rural Colorado, I was coded as like very brown, and I had a lot of issues with that. But then once I got to college, I was obviously like opened up to a lot of things, including like, I'm not the darkest person anymore. And while that was like kind of a cool revelation, it was also very frustrating to be kind of invalidated a lot by white people who were like, oh, I would have never thought that you were like a person of color. And I'm like, really? Because all of my experiences up to this point have said the opposite. So college was an interesting experience, especially within my sorority, trying to figure out like, what is my place? What do I get out of this, like, you know, sort of piece of the pie? And for a really long time, it was sort of like, I don't think I'm owed anything, but I want to make sure that the people who have given me like so much in my life, which has especially been like Black people and Black popular culture and Black women especially, because they were the people who like during my time of like living in extreme whiteness were like my beacons of being able to like provide comfort and culture and like a lot of great guidance, that I wanted to make sure that they had the best things possible. But in, you know, really digging into DEI culture and the history of this country and the history of like different identities that I align with, I was able to understand like, oh yes, I can like look after myself and also help push people forward. And that's like the most sustainable thing you can do in these spaces. It's not just like, oh, we should help other people because it's good to help. It's a good help other people. It's, we should be helping us all live in a more sustainable, more equitable, better society.
I can be vulnerable for a second and go next. So I think my biggest aha in the past few years has been discovering all of the unconscious bias, the implicit bias that I've carried around as a white woman from a, you know, pretty middle class family growing up. Just all of those things that I didn't realize I even was carrying around until you start to learn more about unconscious bias. And then I realize I'm like blocking my doors as I'm driving through, you know, one of the rougher neighborhoods in town. Like just those little things that I didn't even think about it before. And then you start to go, wait, what, like, why I now live in one of the neighborhoods that I would have considered rough when I first moved here. So that's not the, like, it's that words again are failing me, but.
One of my aha moments was more so actually our first committee meeting, because like, honestly, I'm an introvert. So like me being out there, me being confident in how I feel and my words and everything is like still a work in progress. But like all the different women here and like the women that like aren't here like right now, but they're like so confident in their perspective and in who they are. And like me being a collegiate, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, like I got this, I can do this. And then like they've just given me like more of the power within myself to believe in who I am as a Black woman, and just like giving me more of like a love for like this organization and like all the women in this committee. I just want to say like I love you all. So
Yes, Kayla, we're so happy you're part of this committee. You've made such an impact on us. So thank you all for being vulnerable in that question and sharing.
Okay. Did my internet freeze?
I think so.
I warned you. Well, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and open up some from all of you that are on. Any questions that you have for the DEIA committee members?
Please don't be shy. We may not have exact answers for everything that you ask, but anything is on the table, whatever you want to ask.
I have a dorky question for Pau. So my real name is Mary, and I haven't gone by that since I was like 6 days old. So I am Terry on everything I can possibly be. And I know you go by Pau, but it says Paulina on your Zoom thing. So I'm just, is that like a work professional thing or?
So it's kind of me being lazy at this point. The story is, so Pau is a nickname that I got from my family back when I was living in Mexico. I'm originally from Mexico City, for all y'all that don't know. And then when I moved to the US, kids are kind of bad at learning names. I feel like they've gotten a lot better, and or like this country has gotten better at trying to practice like, let's learn other people's names. So it, like, for a really long time, Paulina was just like, here's my white name, here you go, because you're not going to be able to say Paulina correctly because you're gonna like get tired of it. And there was a lot of brief stints where I tried to like play with different names because I was like, Paulina isn't actually my name. It's like a weird pronunciation of my name and it does not sound pretty. It sounds like a derivative of a guy's name, which is kind of funny, with all of my gender like thoughts and feelings. So I left college after trying a few different nicknames that all failed. And as I was discovering and feeling out, being trans, I was like, why don't I just go back to being Pau? Like, why can't I use this name that I use in private with like the entire world? And it's been about like a year now. I went officially into corporate life. I'm an SEO consultant for Cox Media Group, which is a news conglomerate based out of Atlanta. And when I first got my job, I was like, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to be bold and for me to like set my boundaries and say, this is who I am. This is what I go by. So even though it took me like a week or two to kind of like get my courage up to be like, actually, I want you to call me this. I got in that habit and everyone calls me Pau now. And I get to put my pronouns and my like preferred name in my email signature. And it just feels very validating, even though it's like kind of a small thing.
It's always the little things.
Anybody else have a question? I think maybe Pat might have one. Pat, I think you're on mute still.
Is that it? Am
Yep.
I on? Well, you're going to find out that I'm not a very confident computer user, although I've had it for 10 years. My name is Pat, and I have questions, but as you all talked, I was absolutely amazed. I was so excited because I didn't think that any of you would be addressing some of the situations that our culture knows now. I'm really pleased that what is happening in this group is a diversity of reasons about diversity. I have some examples from my life, and you may guess that I'm a lot older than most of you. So that's going to be interesting, but I tie in with some of the things that you talk about. So my question would be, I guess, what happens with future gatherings like this? And you asked for questions before. Is that going to be the pattern and so forth? Of our submitting them in some way, or whatever the pattern of the meetings is, or the Zooms or whatever. Okay, now what do I do? No.
That's great. So Pat, just to clarify, you just want to know how future DEIA committee meetings go, or just overall Sigma Kappa meetings?
Well, this is the only one I've ever been part of. I didn't know about all the others, although I've used Zoom with other groups. I want to be able to, I don't know what the committee does. I mean, the activities, and I don't know that I want to do that, but I want to add other questions or information from the rest of you as you go along with however you're handling it.
Those are great. Lindsay, Kayla, Pau, I mean, even our comms team is on. Feel free to answer. I mean, I think we're just in that time where Zoom meetings are the way. I mean, I got to tell you, Sigma Kappa has done an amazing job with the recruitment week? And even the planning before then, it's just amazing how well we adjusted. But anyway, I don't
I
know,
can chime in.
Jessica.
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in. So, Pat, this is just one of 3 meet and greets that we're doing with our committee. We have one more tomorrow night where we will feature 4 other members of the committee. So feel free to join that one as well to learn a little bit more of insights from us. But if you're asking more so specifically of like how to follow along with the work that we're doing, there's a couple of ways. So Sigma Kappa releases emails that kind of update you all on our accomplishments thus far and what the committee is doing related to DEIA work. There's now a specific place on the website where you can actually go to Sigma Kappa's website, and at the top you'll see DEIA, and it has a plethora of things that we're doing as far as the consultant, the creative teams, and all of that work if you want to just stay updated on what's kind of occurring and happening. But Teresa and I are the ones that lead that. We're the co-chairs of the committee itself. So if there's more things that you want to know about, we are happy to share our emails with you or kind of get in touch if that's what you're looking for.
Me, my turn. Okay, that's great. I use email more than Facebook or other things, although I get it. So emailing between us or among us, I guess might be okay. Would it be the 2 of you would be basically to do it? Are you getting it? You get my, oh, I'm not muted. I am. Did you get my, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just, so can I ask you a question? I mean, can I ask for Jessica? Let's say I was addressing it to Jessica. I'm just wondering if, if you can send me or get me your emails, and then I'll use those and go with that, at least at this point. I'd like to, because I want to continue with your group, whether it's your committee meetings, which you're kind of reporting to all of us. As I understand it, Powell, is it? Oh, I have one thing. I finally found your names down here in little print at the corner. And part of my vision, I'm getting new glasses, but that may not solve it all. And at some point, one time I had a committee and I had people have great big lettered signs right where they were. So that might be nice if you all think that's important. It would be for me. Am I Powell? Is it Powell? Powell's
So
name?
So it's spelled P-A-U. It's the first 3 letters of my name, and then it's pronounced like Pau.
P-A-U, Powell.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. Okay. Are you an alum? Is that right?
Yes.
And I am too, of course. Anybody else that I'm talking with now that's an alum? Oh, Jessica, you're an alum. When did you graduate, or did you graduate?
I did in 2015, actually, Pat.
Yay.
So,
4
yeah.
years ago. Well, somewhere along the way, I want to know what you've been doing for those 4 years, but that's just a personal question, just because.
Yeah, awesome.
Anyway, outside of that, now I'm going to just tell you all one thing that was an aha moment for me. May I toss that in? Okay. When I was a kid, I took tap dancing back in Maryland. I lived there with my folks. And just for a little bit, I don't think we could afford more than 1 year. Then later, as now, quite an adult, I moved to Jefferson City, Missouri, which is where I am retired. And I found out that they were giving, oh, and I made a big mistake with tap dancing when I was a kid. I was so ashamed. You know, had all these people and I was doing something terrible. I mean, I thought it was. So when I moved to Jeff City and I was in my probably later 40s, I found out that they gave lessons for adults in tap dancing. And I thought, by golly, I'm going to go back and take tap dancing again. And it turned out that some other gals were older and wanted to do the same thing. So we took tap from Christy. And then I said to Christy, now, Christy, we're going to have a recital. Maybe those of us who are older, we could open and close the curtains or something. No, she said, you're going to give a presentation, the 4 or 5 of you. So we had costumes, we learned a routine, and everybody thought, who are these people? But we were right along there. It was an aha moment for me. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Pat. Appreciate it. And we'll drop our emails in the chat for you. Any other questions out there?
We do have one for Kayla. What's been your experience doing this sort of committee work while still in college? Great question.
Well, it's a lot of balancing, but it's rewarding at the same time, is what I would say. Like, why don't you like get your schedules right? Like, figure out, okay, I'm doing my homework this day. I have Sigma Catholic chapter meetings this day. Like, long as you like schedule everything out right and figure out where like it might be an overlap and just like fix that. Like, I've been pretty good with that so far. And like it's just honestly a rewarding experience no matter like what like your scheduling is, and like we honestly make it work like whatever your scheduling is. And we do like doodle polls where we like figure out what time works for best for everyone. So like I feel like it's like even like the busiest person can figure it out, but like it's pretty good.
Well, one of my aha moments actually, what Lindsay actually reminded me is asking questions like accessibility questions. Do you need an interpreter? Do we make sure that when we're using Zoom, that Zoom is ADA compliant, so that if somebody needs to use an assistive device, that they're able to connect and able to have access to what we're talking about? And so that's my aha moments. Like, maybe Lindsay, we invite you to all the rest of the meetings and you can do some interpretations for us for sign language, or or at least point people in the right direction if they to have the subtitles for things like that. I mean, those are an aha moment that I had for these meetings moving forward. Anybody else? Kayla, Lindsay, Pau, as we have done this meeting already, are there some things that you'd like to see moving forward?
I'm gonna sound like a broken record, I'm sure. But like ultimately, I think the biggest thing I want to do is to be able to like assess like really where our organization is, where our members feel like we're at, see what's sustainable, what they enjoy about our organization, what isn't sustainable, what we can make better, so that this is an organization that everyone can be proud of and can really feel like they're a part of. I think that like the sororities are such a great resource when they're utilized well. And I think that there's so much opportunity and growth, especially right now when we have a lot of challenges and a lot of people who are rightfully like encouraging us to do better and be better as historically white institutions, that we should take that challenge and really go forward and see how we can help like the next generation or so make the best experiences yet out of being in these organizations.
I would love, Teresa, since you said it, I would love to see these videos have at least transcripts added to them whenever they get posted. I think that would be super helpful for accessibility for everyone. Closed captions on places like Zoom they're a little iffy, because even on YouTube, closed captions are iffy because they use the computer. It's the computer that does.
Auto-generated is the word.
Auto-generated. Thank you. That's the word. Terry, helping me out with my words today. So the captions are auto-generated, and so sometimes it'll pull up completely different words from what you said. So you will have said one thing and it captions the weirdest sentence you've ever read. And that's what happens to a lot of my students as we're watching videos together. They're like, why does it say that? That's not what they said in the movie, I promise. Like, so transcripts are often better after the fact than so closed captions during.
I think we're just starting to do a better job at this, but like more like diversifying, I would say, like our image. But like I feel like we're doing a better job with it. Like social media wise, it's like I feel like it's getting like more like up with it. And like I guess because like just being a person of color, seeing somebody that looks like you in Sigma Kappa like draws you in and makes you feel more connected and feel like, okay, yeah, this is the place where I feel like I can belong. And just like seeing the representation, I think is really important.
Thank you. All right, I guess we have time for one more question before Jessica closes it out. Pau, this one's for you. How did you let your coworkers know that your pronouns are they and them?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think I just got in the habit of introducing myself like the way I introduced myself at the beginning of this call, saying like, my name is Paulina Burgoa. I go by Pau, my pronouns are they, them. At first, it was super scary and I kind of hated it. It was like, I could feel myself shaking as I was doing it, but like getting in the habit of it, it both like helped empower me to be like, I'm saying this because it matters. I'm saying this because I want people to know this about me. But it also just got me used to being like, you know what? People should know my pronouns. If they have a problem with that, I immediately know what kind of person they are, and they've given me a gift by doing that. So it was a lot of, I guess it was pushing through the hard moments, even when I didn't necessarily want to.
Can I make a random comment? When this started I was in the military for 20 years. I was Air Force, and I'm retired now from the Air Force and still working in other things, but I'm in a group of all Air Force women, and we talk about the crap that we go through as military women. Like when we park in a veteran space and some old dude comes up and says, "There's no women in the military," and you just want to slap them, but they're an old dude, so you can't. But when people started putting their pronouns in their emails, we had a discussion about that and how awesome it is that even if you're still she, her, and not they, them, it's a great way to remind somebody to call you ma'am and not sir, because that happens a lot. And I don't know what the right word is. It's an inactive way to do it, or it's just there for them to read instead of, putting it in their face if it might make them uncomfortable. And then if everybody does it, it's normal. And it's not just the people that have the different pronouns, if we all do it. And I've seen people do it on Zoom. I haven't seen us really doing it here, but it's totally done on Zoom a lot. But mostly LinkedIn and emails is where I see it.
Like I said earlier, I'm lazy. I would definitely be adding my pronouns. Every time I hop onto a call, I'm like, I'll change the settings later.
Thanks for that. Super important. And Pau, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but even when we started this committee, I think you were very upfront about, you talked about boundaries throughout this. You talked about what resonates with you, what terms resonate with you as we're speaking. And I think that was super important. You kind of set the bar and took that action step that you said may make people uncomfortable, but I think it takes a lot to be able to do that. So thank you for sharing about that. So we're wrapping up our meeting here. We hope that you all have, really enjoyed the time getting to know a little bit more about just a couple of our committee members. Like I said, this is number 2 out of 3 that we're hosting. So tomorrow is our last one with 4 different committee members that you haven't gotten to meet or speak to yet. They have a plethora of knowledge, and just like these women here, or these members here, we have really been able to hopefully give you more insight into who they are. So we have a quick poll for you all to wrap us up for the evening. And so I think it'll just pop up for you. I hope. There we are. So just thoughts overall after the call, just fill that in. We won't really show results for that. And after that, you're free to just log off. Thanks for spending some time with us tonight.